Welcome to the Greg Bennett Show. I'm your host, Greg Bennett, and today I have a wonderful conversation with one of the most passionate, energetic, driven, and successful men I know, Jamie Hunt. Jamie is incredibly open and vulnerable in this episode. His journey from being left off the New Zealand Olympic team to co-founder of the high-performance endurance and compression brand 2XU is just incredibly inspiring. His drive to produce the world's greatest products and his relentless pursuit of looking to do things better is grounded by his family, his community, his faith, and his physical training. It hasn't all been smooth sailing. His family have had to pack up and move, and he was on the road for 200 days a year for 13 years, and he's dealt with depression brought on by anxiety. But he's come out the other side wiser and more in control of his life. He understands what's important to him, and he's making it happen. Just so many great lessons and great advice in this one. His passion is just truly contagious. Now, some housekeeping before we go on. If you're enjoying the show, please subscribe and review on Apple Podcast. Please keep the feedback coming on my social channels. That really is fantastic. And finally, you can find all the show notes, timestamps, the coupon codes, and all the links at bennettendurance.com/media. I hope you enjoy this one as much as I did. And remember, success comes to those who endure just one moment longer. I'm so grateful for the continued support of the show from these incredible sponsors. You really do need to have these products in your life. Personally, I use each of them daily. Athletic Greens nutritional beverage, Hyperice recovery tools, and the glutathione supplement Continual G. What I love about Athletic Greens is its simplicity. It's delivered straight to your door and it takes seconds to mix with water. It tastes great and goes down easy. And I know I'm getting the most comprehensive nutritional beverage on the planet in one quick drink. If you're looking for one product that has as much high quality nutrients in it as possible, then you want to consider Athletic Greens. Athletic Greens is more than just a multivitamin and multimineral. It takes it to the next level, adding a daily dose of superfoods, probiotics, greens blend, and more to support the gut health, energy, immunity, and stress. And right now, Athletic Greens is giving you, my audience, a special offer on top of their all-in-one formula. You'll receive 1 year supply of vitamin D and 5 travel packs for free with your first purchase for additional immune support. Many of the population are vitamin D deficient, including myself. I focus heavily in getting in the sun throughout the day, but when I can't, I religiously supplement with vitamin D. Adding vitamin D to your daily routine is just a great way to support vitamin D production. So if you're looking to get more out of your multivitamin and invest in your immunity, energy, and gut health, then you'll struggle to find anything more comprehensive than Athletic Greens. Take ownership of your health today and receive comprehensive nutritional insurance, a free year supply of vitamin D, and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase by visiting athleticgreens.com/Greg. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/Greg. Now, you'll hear me mention Normatec and Hypervolt from Hyperice in several of the conversations with my guests in this show. Many of my guests and I are using these recovery tools religiously. You really must have them in your house. Sit in a pair of Normatec boots at the end of a long day. Use the Hypervolt percussion massage device to warm up muscles and loosen hot spots before working out, or anytime you have a niggling injury. They're just so easy and they're so quick, and they work. Their vibrating foam rollers, thermal technology, and Normatec compression systems just help you warm up faster, recover quicker, and simply move better. Seriously, these products are the perfect Christmas gift for any family member or good friend. Get $50 off all percussion devices now, no code needed, and get an additional 10% off with code GREG10 at hyperice.com. That's hyperice.com, HYPERICE.com, and use code GREG10 for 10% off. I have a web address for all of my listeners who already know that 1, the human body makes the most powerful antioxidants on earth. 2, the master antioxidant your body cells make is called glutathione, and the human body needs glutathione to live. 3, the reason I'm addressing a select group of listeners with this web address is that once you see what these scientists in my hometown, Sydney, have accomplished, it'll blow your mind. Go check out continualg.com, continualg.com. That's CONTINUALG.com. Check it out and let them know that I told you about it. All right, today's guest is a former professional triathlete who transitioned to the world of high-performance sports and apparel and co-founded the brand 2XU. He built that brand at a mind-boggling pace to a brand that had over $100 million in transactions a year and sold for a nine-figure sum. His passion, energy, and hard work was evident as an athlete. We raced each other throughout the 90s, and he was part of that exceptional group of Kiwis that just took the world by storm. He took that same passion, energy, and hard work into the world of fabrics and brand building and never looked back. He's one of the most genuine, down-to-earth men you could meet and combines that with a driven, competitive streak that has just fueled him to become one of the world's great high performers. I feel fortunate to call him a friend, and I'm delighted to have him sit down with me today. So welcome, and thanks for joining me on The Greg Bennett Show. Jamie Hunt, how are you, mate?
Very good, thank you. Very good. We're definitely enjoying coming to summer here in New Zealand, and luckily for us, we are COVID free. So life here is pretty good.
Oh, stop boasting. Anyway, mate, we have a lot to cover. You've been incredibly busy. So I didn't know where to start this conversation. So I thought, well, why not just start at the beginning? And let's wind the clock back so we can sort of get a bit of perspective on who you are. And let's sort of start with your sporting career. And tell me about, eventually I want to talk about how you transitioned into business and that. But for right now, let's focus on the sport. And when did you find your passion for endurance sports?
I think it was, I grew up in quite a lower socioeconomic area in New Zealand. And my mother was sort of smart lady, and she decided early on that she wanted us kids to keep out of getting involved in gangs and bad things. So she actually enrolled me and my brother into swimming and into running, and I ended up being a really good sprinter, and I swam at a competitive level, and that kind of came through into high school. When I was 14 years old, I wasn't a very good student, I'd say, and so my parents shipped me off to boarding school, and at boarding school it probably took me maybe 6 months to make any real friendships. And one day I went down to the magazine store and saw the very first edition of the Triathlete magazine. And then I obviously I couldn't go online in those days, but I kind of heard it was a Les Mills Triathlon in Auckland about 12 weeks later, and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna enter that. So at this stage I was probably a little chubby little boy, and I think I was like 14 or 15 years old, and it was a 1.5, 40 and 10 race, so it wasn't a short one, and so I ended up basically, as I do with my life, I kind of go full on into it, and I think I went from training from nothing to like three hours a day for the next 12 weeks. Anyway, so I go home like 12 weeks later and say to my parents, "Hey, on Sunday I'm doing this triathlon." And they first they said, like, what's a triathlon? It was like 1980, I don't know, probably 86, 87 type thing. What's a triathlon? And I said, it's a you swim, bike, and run. But the funny thing is, I actually landed back I flew back into Auckland, where I lived. I went to school down in the South Island. And I came in and I'd lost about 10 kilograms from all this training. Because in those days, we didn't know you trained to lose weight. We just trained, and came back this. And so she rang up the school and said, "Are you not feeding my son?" It's like, so anyway, I was like this 15-year-old, entered in Les Mills Triathlon. And my goal was just to break the cutoff. The cutoff was like 3 hours 30 was the actual cutoff before you were disqualified from the event. So my goal was simply just to break 3 hours 30. I ended up going like 2 hours 20 something. So I was a lot better than what I realized I was. And I was still young. I think I ran about a 42, which wasn't too bad for a guy my age. But I was a runner. So that didn't surprise me. But I actually did okay. And so that basically spurred my passion for triathlon. And basically at that time too, here in New Zealand, I mean, I'm not sure if most of your listeners realize, but as you mentioned earlier, we just had a great breed of athletes come through. I mean, the same year level here in New Zealand for schoolboys, there was myself, there was Hamish Carter, there was Olympic gold medalist, Devin Doherty, Olympic silver medalist, Cameron Brown, multiple Ironman champion, second at Kona twice, Paul Amy, who second in world championships, and as you know, Greg, probably one of the most talented athletes in triathlon ever. There's a guy and other guys like the Brian Rogers of the world, and there's just a really amazing talent all come out of basically one city in New Zealand. So basically over the next 3 or 4 years, we just raced and we raced locally here in New Zealand, and we just thought we were just like any other city in New Zealand of, there's all these young kids doing triathlons, and obviously Rick Wells was the big name in those days, and he was kicking our butt, but we weren't that far behind him. So basically, we just raced and we didn't realize we were that good. And probably the first time, I think the first time we realized it was that good, because I was probably the fourth or fifth best guy of those guys. Back in those days, it was a triathlon, it was non-drafting, and I'm a runner, so in the ITU days, I was probably better than I was in the non-drafting days. But the first time was I went up to America. Luckily enough for me, my father worked for the airline, so I can get cheap airfares. So I went up to America. I think I was like an 18-year-old, and I raced in the Orange County Performing Arts Triathlon. And I remember I came out of the water, I think 10th overall. Came off the bike, went a big pack with Welshie and all these really amazing athletes. And I was like, oh my goodness. And then I ran and I ended up getting like 20th odd and as an 18-year-old. But I bet the US junior champion at the time by 15 minutes. So I went home and said, guys, we're actually bloody good. We're actually pretty good.
I've scouted the world.
Yeah. And then from then obviously, we started to go to the world championships and that breed ended up, I think the first Olympic Games, I think the New Zealand team ended up going into it as the highest ranked men's team, just ahead of the Australians. So for a country of, at that stage, 3.5 million people, we definitely had a real great breed of athletes come through at the same time.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I mean, the names that you mentioned, it really was an outstanding group. And it was all that same year. It was almost like what we had coming out of Sydney. I was more northern beaches, but southern beaches, Chris McCormack and Craig Alexander and we were probably a few years behind you guys in terms of getting onto the world stage. Because when like you said, your dad, worked with the airlines. I mean, I see you winning the World Duathlon Junior Championships in 92 as a 19-year-old. And what I love about that, when I did the homework here, I had to laugh. You won it in 2 hours 44. What was the distance in 92 junior world championships for duathlon? Do you remember it? It was like a 10K, 60K or 10K. That's massive.
It was a 10, 60, 10. So the junior race. I mean, like in those days, world champs, everything was long. It was 10, 60, 10. And I'm not sure if you look through the field, but back in
Norman
those days,
Stadler there.
Norman Stadler was
there
second,
third.
and I was third, and Oliver, who got second, unfortunately passed away. But
Hofschmidt,
and I think he went on to win the World Triathlon Champs that year. So it was actually a really, really great. Triathlon was good in those days, and unfortunately for me, I won that twice actually, and I ended up deciding to go and do duathlons for the next 5 years, which was a complete waste of my time because as it turned out later, I was actually an okay triathlete. So, but no, it was fun. It was fun. It was a great time.
Well, just for the listeners to get some perspective, he was better than an okay triathlete. Fast forwarding a number of years here, we actually had the same sponsor. We were on the same team together with Team New Balance Japan. I don't know if you remember that, but basically you were with them for about 5 years. I think I ended up being with them for about 10, but I think our years crossed over there a fair bit. And just you had some incredible results. I think numerous podiums in the World Cups, which are now called World Triathlon Series events. Yeah. And if we fast forward even a little bit further, the 2000 Olympic Games, I've told my story on this podcast and you can tell yours, but, being left off that New Zealand team for the Olympics, tell me about that. That. To me, it seemed a bit bizarre when I actually look at your performances, and I don't want to discredit the rest of the guys on the team, but it was definitely one where it was like, hang on, what happened there?
Yeah. It was. I mean, I felt upset. I mean, I basically, from 1997 onwards, I had a mission not just to make the team, but to ensure that New Zealand got 3 spots. And unlike nobody else on the New Zealand team, I can safely say that because got the most points of anyone during that time for New Zealand. I dedicated my life to getting on that team for those 4 years, and ultimately, obviously, like 97, I was third in the world during the year, and in the end of the year, fifth. And I think during those 3 or 4 years, I was always around the top 10 in the world. And then coming into the trials, it was I think it was harder in those days. Internet wasn't quite as good. Policy making probably wasn't quite as good. And so I don't hold any grudges at all, to be honest with you. But basically they basically announced that Sydney and the World Champs in Perth 2 weeks later would be the two trials. So on an equal level, and basically they said if you get in the top 15 at either of those races, your name will go forward to be selected. There was no, like nowadays they say if you get top 5, whatever else too. But apparently about 2 weeks out, they told everyone, not me, that if you're top 5 in Sydney, you're an automatic qualifier. And I didn't find out till 2 days before the race. And those weeks before the race, I would have dramatically changed my training. I mean, I was trying to do well at both, and ultimately the Worlds was my main goal. And I can remember like 5 days out, I did a real hard session, and it wasn't 2 days out I hit. I was like, hey, come on guys, this is not really fair. But I try not to be someone who's controversial, so I went along with it. And Ben Bright, who we all know, great guy and great coach now. He came out of the woodwork after not really racing much at all for the previous 4 or 5 years and got fifth. I think I was about 15 seconds behind 7th to 8th, and just right behind Craig Watson, another New Zealander. So I was right there, but unfortunately, 15 seconds could I've got it if I had prepared for it. Maybe, who knows? But anyway, put it beside me. Ben was an outsider. He got a slot. There was 2 slots left. Hamish didn't have a great first trial, but he was definitely the guy I know the selectors wanted on the team, and fair enough. He's elite in the sport. And that third spot was really the spot which I thought I really nailed down. Craig kind of threw a little bit of a spanner in the works by just putting me in Sydney. He went on from there and got first in the world the following year. So the talent was there. So nothing against Craig. But the final race in the World Championships, that was my main goal. I can remember right after the Worlds, I did a 5K track session like 10 days out. I think I ran like 14:30. I was in really good run shape. And so I went to that race. I had this decent enough swim. I wasn't the world's best swimmer, but kind of got on the main pack. And I think you're probably in the pack. I think it was 5 guys out front. Marcel and a few other guys were out front. I think Hamish maybe as well. And then there's a big pack of guys. I was in there. I think you could have been in there. Macca was in there. And then basically I was being a bit of a, I sat at the back the whole ride. I was a runner. I was playing my cards. But not being a nice guy, coming right into the very last corner, I went right to the front of the pack so I could get off the bike first. And it just started to rain. So we come in the last major corner, and I slipped out. I crashed. Actually brought Craig Watson down with me because he was tracking on my wheel, and a few other guys came down. So I crashed, got up, fixed my bike, kind of adjusted my wheel, got back on, rode into the area. I think it was about 46, 47 seconds behind the pack that I actually would have been. So I was down in 45th place. I then ran all the way through the field. I think me and Robbo had the equal fastest run time that day. I think Robbo got first or second that day in the end. He was in the pack with us.
Yeah.
I would have run, if I hadn't crashed, my run time would have given me a medal at the World Champs and definitely in the team. And I ran through to 11th place, 1 second off 10th place. I think you were right there somewhere too. And then I thought, and then Craig Watson came down. He ended up getting 35th. I finished like 5 seconds behind Hamish, and I thought from that performance I'd booked my space. I'd booked my place in the team. Anyway, the 3 selectors met together, decided we think the Games is going to be a swimmer's race. And Jamie, your swimming is probably not quite as good as Craig's, so we're going to put Craig in the team ahead of you. It was a vote 2-1. As it turned out, to be a complete runner's race. Someone Whitfield who won it was living with me before the games. We were going head to head, with and even the head Australian coach later said that I probably was with a real good shot of winning the medal, had I been there. So.
It does. I mean, that story is almost somewhat of a mirror image of my own going into 2000. That's that same kind of thing, and you do sit back with sort of disappointment and a bit bewildered, kind of what happened. When you go all in on something. And that's why I'm a huge advocate for sort of aligning your passions with your strength and then pulling the trigger and going all in and taking a full responsibility for your life and everything else. And it's difficult when you feel like, well, hang on, I kind of feel like I did it, but it was taken away anyway. And was that the driving force for retiring from racing and the transition into the business world and entrepreneurship, or was it more than that?
Yeah, it really was. I mean, I have to be honest. I think by that stage, I already had 2 children. I got married when I was 21. Still married now, 28 years later now.
Congrats, mate. Well done. Yeah.
And already had 2 kids, and I can remember. I always said to my wife, by the time I turned 30, if I'm not making a good enough living that's going to see us through the rest of our lives, before I hit 30, I'm going to have to retire. Because when you get into your 30s, you kind of become pretty, not want to say unhorrible, but you kind of get in a position where someone's like, oh, you're already in your 30s, you're probably past your best. So basically, I kept racing that year, had an okay year, started the following year. My mind wasn't in it. It was 4 years to the next games. I got offered a spot to, transition across to the UK team and race for Scotland, and would have meant moving to Scotland for a year, and which my wife wasn't really keen on doing. And then at the start of 2001, you mentioned the New Balance team. I lost my contract with them, and that really it was a salary that basically paid the bills, and anything extra, was great. So when I lost that, I was like, okay, now was the time. I'm kind of going to have to give it away. But to be honest with you, I talk about the Olympic Games, and I think actually one of the biggest blessings of my life actually was not making that Olympic Games team, because I think I would have kept going, and I would have missed the opportunity to go into the business world. I would have probably waited 4 more years to the next games. Would have been already in my early to mid 30s, So I actually now look back and had some real good chats with the selectors, and they've all kind of said we kind of got it wrong, as such. But look, it was their call, and I think they made the call they thought that was best. So completely, no hard feelings towards them. And as it turned out, it was probably a blessing in disguise. And and I was burnt out too. My mind wasn't anymore. I thought about going into Ironman. I thought, man, I can't even do 1 3-hour ride a week, let alone do 3 or 4 3-hour rides a week. So so that was definitely a good time for me to change. And then at the time I was living on the Gold Coast. My best friend, Scott Unsworth, at the time, owned the brand Orca, and he kind of came through and said, hey, look, Jamie, I know you got a background in economics. Do you want to come on board and work for me and kind of move into the finance team? And I said, I'm on board. So basically within 2 weeks, we'd bought a house back in Auckland, sold a house on the Gold Coast, moved back home, set my wife back to work, and because I was on about 30 grand a year, starting at the very, very bottom. And our 3rd kid was on the way too. So it was really the time, it was worked out really well. So I went back in there, basically spent about 4 to 5 weeks in the finance team. Absolutely hated it. I was doing bank reconciliations the whole time. I know you got background in accounting too. I was doing bank reconciliations, and then basically about 4 or 5 weeks after I started, the head production person, the head of product, basically had an argument with Scott, the owner of Orca, and said, "Look, I'm out of here." And so I sat down with Scott. He was a bit upset, and he goes, "We have to put a range out in about 10 weeks' time." And he goes, I just don't, I've got to be here. And I said, Scott, I know nothing at all about production, but I know what athletes want. And I know what I would want to wear. And so basically he goes, okay, the job's yours. So he goes, basically, you're on a plane tomorrow. He actually sat down and he spent 3 hours trying to educate me in fabrics. And I look back on it now, he didn't know very much. But basically in those days, we'd be manufactured mostly in Portugal and Italy, because of quotas into China and everything else too. And so basically I went and spent the next basically 8 to 10 weeks in China, threw together a collection, but instantly fell in love with fabrics, fell in love with the mechanics, the fibers, the structures, the gauges, just basically took my love and passion of triathlon and put it into fabrics and just building really great products. And, I basically took my competitive nature from being an athlete and took it into the sport and into the fabric and business world. And this real tenacious drive to be the best in that, and so basically created this collection. I remember I flew with about five big suitcases. I think a conference where basically you develop a range. You go to like our international sales conference, handed all the samples. So basically I got up and I took them through the collection. As it turned out, I think we sold 3 times more of that collection than we sold of any other clothing collection ever before at Orca. So it was a real success. And I kind of found my calling in life, my next calling in my next season of my life. And that was in making high performance sports apparel.
It is really incredible story. I mean, very few of us get to live out one passion, and then for you to find another passion and then live it out like you did is really quite incredible, because I really believe high performance starts with passion. It doesn't matter. You can have hard work, you can talk about all these things, but hard work is fueled with passion. You know what I mean? And it's like you were able to have passion for this endurance sport of triathlon and take it all the way to basically you should have been on the Olympics and that level. Within months, it seems. I don't know, maybe you've missed some time there, but it seems like missed the Olympic team. Hang on, here's another door open. But how much of it was it being prepared to just allow yourself to be ready for that opportunity? I mean, you went to Scott's door and knocked and said, hey, mate, I'm an athlete myself. Why don't you let me be a part of the production? It was like this ability to be open to opportunity. And you said you were able to transfer the skills from sport to business to something. What do you mean by that? What exactly were you able to sort of transfer over?
Oh, you know what I mean? Like you used the word passion, and I think that's probably an adjective that's probably used a lot when people talk about me. I'm a very passionate, highly energetic. I'm a goal setter, and I think I took the passion that I had for one thing into the other, and I think I did a lot of it out of ignorance. I mean, I didn't really know what I was getting myself into, and I think often in life that's the way. And I often hear people come to me and say, I've got this passion that I want to do this, and I've been thinking about it for years, and should I do it or shouldn't I do it? And look, and sometimes there is passion and there's no logic behind the business they want to go into. But I'm like, look, in our business, and when we started 2XU, we always said passion has the right of way. If you're passionate about something you want to do, we're going to support you in that passion. And and I think, and look, I mean, but obviously you have to have logic behind the passion too. But I just carried the passion through and hopped in the airplane, not knowing what I was doing at all. And again, really, the factory's always said to me, no one ever asked the amount of questions that you ask. I was just always wanting to learn about, why do they do that? Why do they do this? And I think I got to a point pretty quickly where I knew the basics good enough. And then I applied the logic always. Would I want to wear this, product if I was racing, or, would this make sense to me if I was racing? And, so I basically, took a marketing thinking always into the product that I was building. And I think that was one of the things I carried from Orca even across the 2XU. Whenever I was making a product, I was always thinking, how do we voice this in a communication way when it comes to marketing this product? Would I believe this marketing? Would I believe this product was the best? And so I think I came into this product development perspective with an athlete's mindset, with that also a real marketing mindset too.
And,
But
it sounds like it sounds like a little bit of a Kiwi Australian attitude too, where we almost start cynical, and then you have to prove us why it works. Whereas I feel in the US here, it's like you can come out with a product and everybody goes, "Oh yeah, that sounds pretty good. I'll give it a go." Whereas in Australia, I feel like Australians and Kiwis, we're kind of like, "No, we're going to start cynical, and you better prove me." And so that mindset,
100%. Oh, that's one. And we'll probably get into it a bit later on, but it's one of the reasons why I'm actually relocating for the next brand that I start. I mean, I love New Zealand, I love Australia, but even when we started 2 times in Australia, everyone thought we were a US brand. I think that probably helped. That probably helped our growth because they thought they probably were better than what we were. Because it seems to be in New Zealand, Australia, if you are a local brand, you got to prove yourself more. And honestly, New Zealanders and Australians, no offense to the listeners from other countries out there, but we have to prove ourselves more. Our market is so small, so we need to build better products. We've got to be better marketers. We can't rely on population based to win. And I see some products in other parts of the world, and I go, how did that company make so much money? There's some brands. There's one brand in the UK. I'm not going to mention who they are, but massively successful gym wear brand. And I look at their marketing and their product, and I go, how are they now worth $1 billion? Because that was New Zealand. We wouldn't even get off the ground.
Yeah, it's true.
It's like, so we have to prove ourselves so much harder down here. But one thing I will say is that we've got such a great amount of talent down here. And so much so that I'm really relocating to the UK next year to start my next brand. And I'm taking my whole New Zealand office with me because the talent that I've got down here, they are such talented people here in New Zealand. And I'm sure in Australia is the same way too, so talented.
Is it talent or is it talent or is it hunger? Is it passion? Is it work ethic? Is it all of those things? What do you mean by talent?
I'm sure it's all those things, but I think that if the talent that I have in my office, if we were in a bigger country, that would already probably be with the big brands, probably already earning 3 or 4 times than what they're currently earning. So hopefully they're not just listening to this podcast. But I mean, and I'm sure when I get to London, they're going to be, headhunted. But, I think the talent that they have, I'll be paying 3 or 4 times more for them there. But I also feel like they're willing and open to learn. They haven't, and actually most of them actually don't even haven't been to university, to be honest. They're coming in with this really fresh mindset and perspective and going, it's fantastic. And I think one thing I learned at 2 times you've got to give these young guys as much autonomy as you can so they can really feel like they're really contributing. And that's how we hang on to talent for a really long time at 2 times you. We, like I said before, we gave them the right away. We said, if you're passionate, we'll let you follow through with that. But again, talent everywhere. But I think I'm just really excited about my team here in New Zealand, and I'm excited about the things that we can actually achieve.
It's great leadership, mate. It's like, you're recognizing them for one. And I think all of us love to be recognized. It doesn't matter what level you are in a company. If you can be recognized, that's just fantastic. And then, like you said, you're giving them this huge array of autonomy where they're allowed to go and you're going to listen to them. That's any corporation that's going to allow, doesn't matter what position you're in, but you're going to be heard from the top executives. You're going to blossom. It's going to be successful. Yes. It's great leadership. It really is. Now, I want to backtrack a little bit. You're talking about moving to the UK and everything. I want to get there. But before we do, you had a number of years at Orca. I feel like that was that like getting your degree? It was like your education. And then what happened in this next stage and this entrepreneurial?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm going to do it on my own.
Well, I was at Orca like 3.5, 4 years. So I always say it was completely my apprenticeship. And, obviously when I left, Scott wasn't happy, but I'm always very thankful that I had the opportunity to really learn the game. The triathlon game somewhat. Obviously Orca was more of a triathlon, but in New Zealand, actually, it was like in 2004, we actually built the whole collection for the New Zealand Olympic team. For all sports. So in New Zealand, we were actually quite a decent sized business, more than just triathlon. We're across all facets. And, but, I was getting to a point in time, where, I ran the production and the sales and ran the big chunk of the company pretty much. And there was never an opportunity that was made clear to me that I would be an owner one day, that I'd have any ownership in it. which is fine. Every business owner has that prerogative they can work to. But so basically an opportunity came along where a guy from Australia came along. If you're an Australian, listen to this podcast. Devonport Underwear was his background. He did license by Calvin Klein and Looney Tune ties, Looney Tune boxer shorts. He made a bit of an empire out of doing that. And he'd sold his business, and he basically came across myself and a marketing sales guy as well, Aidan Clark, and he'd heard about and met me once. I took him through my philosophy on product, and basically he said to me and Aidan, "Hey, look, guys, do you want to move to Australia? We'll start a high-performance sports brand. You guys can almost decide what sports you want to go into."
Wow.
And so basically we said, yeah. So 2005, we packed our bags, moved our kids across to Australia and started this brand from scratch called 2XU.
It happened so quick, mate. I remember you taking me to, where was it, in Melbourne there? I can't remember the name of the suburb.
Yeah.
To a store that was already blossoming with some of the best gear. Laura and I, my wife Laura, as you know, we still have so much of that original gear. When you took us into the store and said, guys, you can grab some pieces or whatever you said to us.
Yeah.
And we were just like, kids in a candy store. I'm pretty sure that was 2006. And we still have that gear, by the way. We still have that gear and we love it. I mean, that's good stuff. But anyway, sorry to interrupt. But
sure. No, you're right. I mean, pretty much the deal was Clyde said to me, "Jamie, I want to range out." He goes, "I've got this store. It was in Hawthorne, which is a suburb of Melbourne." And he said, "I've got this underwear store. And by October, I want you to build me a whole collection and have it in that store."
Wow.
So basically, I basically spent like the early Orchid days, spent the next, by the stage I was mostly in China, in Italy with fabrics. I said, look, basically went there and spent the next 10 months getting this product to make. So by October, we'd built a triathlon line, a run line, and a cycle line. And I look back on that day and I look back at the products we had. We actually had some products even today I would be really, really proud to put out there.
Mate. That winter jacket, the winter cycling jacket that you guys had is still one of the best ones I have. Yeah. And I've had some of the best cycling brands sponsor me towards the end of my career. And it was phenomenal stuff.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I mean, for example, I developed this run t-shirt and basically it's 4 different fabrics in this run t-shirt. This is 2005. And basically I built a sweat zone in the top part of the top that was a really, really super high moisture wicking. We did a thing called denier and filament grading. And then that fabric was a bit harsh on the inside because you want to maximize moisture. So I made a slightly high filament on the inside to make it a bit softer, like around the chest area, so you didn't have chafed nipples and still real good moisture management. I did the silver, first guy to ever put silver into a fabric, and I put it under the arms so it didn't smell. And on the back, I developed this 3D mesh textured top. So it was 4 different fabrics in this run top. And what was a great story, basically I can remember me and Aidan hopped on an airplane, maybe it was about August, September, and we had actually the store Nitro was really keen to be our distributors before we even launched. So I actually went up to Nitro and showed them our collection, and at the same time we went and visited like 20 odd of the biggest run stores in America. And we went in and basically before we even showed a product, we would talk through the philosophy of the brand. We are high performance, high end. In those days, Nike and Adidas were doing a lot more of the fashion-y kind of like iconic heritage collection. So we just spoke this pure performance angle. And I remember we went to these stores, and I think we saw like 25 stores, whatever it was. And I can remember at the end of that trip, 24 of those 25 stores put orders in for our run range, wow. and the 25th store put an order in like 3 months later. And at that time too, though, this new category called compression came along, and there's a big brand in Australia called Skins, which I'm sure a lot of listeners will be familiar with. They came up with this compression collection, and I kind of had a look at it, and with my background in fabric, and said, look, they're using a warp knit, probably should be using a circular knit. And so basically we spent that first year too building this really great compression range. They were first to market, so they had real traction. But basically, over the first 3 or 4 years of 2XU, I think within 2 years, we were the world's biggest triathlon brand. It was instant. I think by year 3, we were 3 times bigger than the next biggest one. And then cycle range was like it's a jacket sold. I remember that bike jacket you spoke about in Japan. I think we did 25,000 units in our first year of that bike jacket. So, it sold really well. And then compression was there, kind of in behind triathlon. And we keep saying it's going to come. This category is going to launch. By this stage, we had about 35 distributors around the world. By year 2, we were profitable. I think by year 4, 5. By year 4 and 5, we were Australia's fastest growing company. And we just completely took off, and went from, I think by year 7 or 8, we did 20, 30 million profit. So we just enormous growth, and we just really stuck to the mantle that, we don't apologize for the price, even though I believe our products had real value for money. And the point is, you're still wearing it today. We used great fabrics, not actually all sourced from Italy. I mean, actually, what I became, a real skill set in the end was just taking these amazing Italian fabrics, going to Taiwan, going to Korea, even going to China, sourcing the yarns, having them knitted and dyed in Asia, and every bit as good, if not better, than what the originals actually were, and managed to get it at a price point that was actually really, really good price points. But basically built this, but our language, I mean, in year 1, basically every product I had its own swing tag with like a line drawing with diagrams going to each of the panels, explaining why that panel has that fabric. So really going into really minute details on the product. And guys like me, because I'm a real A-type personality, I thought that's exactly what I would want to see and read in a product if I was going to buy it, So that thinking really carried us through. And, I think by year 6 and 7, I think we had almost every NBA team in the US was wearing our product. LeBron James was one of our biggest fans, even though he was with Nike, and you can see multiple images of him through ESPN magazines. Actually, I actually even saw an image of him coming home from the NBA finals a few weeks ago, still wearing our 2xU compression socks, so still a fan, but basically we just had this just passion to build the best product. And we spoke about, moisture management ratings and how we constructed these fabrics. And we just went to the next level in explaining why our products were better. And honestly, most of the time they really, really were better. And obviously I've sold 2xU now. But to this day, I look back and we really had world leading products in all the sports, even cycling, for example. And the hard part with cycling is that most cyclists don't want to buy into what was perceived as a compression/triathlon brand. But so many of the guys that I know that are great cyclists out there said, we love your bike gear, So look, really, really proud of that. And the first 8 to 9 years of 2xU, when the three of us still had complete ownership of the business, it was a great ride. We had a lot of fun.
I can hear the passion in your voice. Were you guys every now and then just sort of sitting back and going, "Can you believe what's happening?" Did it feel real? The way that, I mean, obviously you were all working incredibly hard. Obviously you were focused on product led rather than marketing led. It was really about product. But was it still somewhat of a surprise at the way it just took off with its legs?
Yeah, you know what? I don't think we actually took enough time to celebrate the success. We were so just in this massive amount of going non-stop. I mean, I think for at least 12 years, I had 200 days a year when I was away from my family, normally on airplanes, normally in Europe. And, we were so just, this growth was just so huge, and being based down in Melbourne, Australia, to get anywhere takes forever, and so, you know what, I could have enjoyed it more. I mean, I think, I'm really open about my mental health, and during that time of just spending years and years of traveling, and I probably didn't sit back enough and take time to enjoy it. And I actually ended up spiraling, into depression, because I was just so manic in the way I lived my life. And as you can tell, I'm a passionate person. I just went 24/7 for all those years. And I probably would have enjoyed it more if I wasn't just wasn't on the road so much, just, and honestly, it wasn't even about the money. We just wanted to build a great brand, and the
Of course.
money was always just a byproduct. But we honestly, we never had time to. I think, at this stage, we were making, millions of dollars a year each, and I think I still had a Vida Polo. I mean, I just didn't have time to buy a car. I was just always just traveling and going for it, and I didn't really have time to sit back and even have, we try to have a really good family holiday every year, but even then I was always on my phone or on my computer, and
Mm.
my kids really did miss out a lot on me during those years. And my wife too. I've got the most incredibly loyal, amazing wife, and I think very few wives would have put up with my lifestyle and traveling, and my children too, who are, they got 3 great kids.
A quick mini break. I really want to encourage you to do something special for yourself and sign up to Athletic Greens and get a free year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase by visiting athleticgreens.com/Greg. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/Greg. I just want to stay on point for a little bit on this compression business. Now, for many listeners, I don't know, this is actually just something I've noticed since I left the sport probably 4 or 5 years ago. I'm still obviously involved and watch it, but it feels like the compression was really big there for a while.
Yeah.
Obviously, with 2XU leading the way and a number of other brands bringing out their own, trying to bring out their own. And then does it feel like to you it's faded off? And before even answering that, what are the benefits? Are we missing something by not having compression on us? Sell me on why we should be having compression for a starter.
Yeah, great question and observation, Greg. I mean, first of all, the benefits. I think at 2XU we probably spent $2 to $3 million on compression research. So we, with the AAS partnership, we had full-time sports scientists, just full-time doing studies for us, and a lot haven't even come out because it takes years to get white papers out on them. But there's absolutely no doubt in many facets of compression. And again, I say compression, the right compression. I think that's one of the. I'll get into the point later about why it's maybe faded out a little bit. If you are wearing true compression, the benefits, I hand on heart 100%, multiple benefits, particularly when it comes to recovery, particularly when it comes to injury prevention. I'm not going to put my hand on my heart and say 100% for every athlete out there, if you wear compression while you're racing, you're going to go faster. I won't say that because there is science around, I believe that it says that it does, but it isn't. That wouldn't be the true benefits why you wear compression. You wear it to support your muscles, less oscillation, less muscle damage, less muscle soreness, less swelling of the muscles, better recovery, faster warm-up through increased blood flow, multiple areas around the injury and injury preventions, muscle support to minimize overuse injuries, whether it be with running or with golf or whatever sport you may play. Aligning the muscles so there's a much better power output. I mean, the first whereas the compression was actually in weightlifting when they wore compression around their legs to help cock the muscles for firing, which is much faster than having muscles that are relaxed and non-cocked, so greater power output. And then obviously recovery, which I think recovery, it goes without saying, it's been in the medical field now for a very long time. It goes without, the fact that it helps you recover faster, but definitely for, gym workouts, for recovery, for running, for muscle injury prevention. I mean, I'm now 48 years old, and I still, even last year, I still competed quite competitively in an Ironman. I know that if I didn't wear compression, I'd even wear 2 to 3 layers around my calves sometimes just to support them, because otherwise my calves just break down, fall apart. Basic compression holds me together now, and it really does. And even going for 5K runs, probably still need it, And so definitely when you're getting older, 100% advocate. I think most guys that have worn 2XU, and I'll say 2XU, or maybe have worn CEP compression socks, great brand. But there's not many brands out there that actually offer true compression. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's fallen away somewhat. People out there have been introduced to compression, which isn't true compression. Many brands out there have just got a swimwear fabric, added the word compression to it, and sold it as compression, and then they're not noticed any real benefits. And that ultimately has been the demise to compression. I mean, you can go into Amazon right now, type in compression tights, and you'll probably find 1,000 pairs of compression tights, all for under $40. That's not compression. I mean, compression, you need it to be hitting MMHG ratings of up in the 20s. Yeah. Even high if it's more of a support level. For graduated compression, you want it to be up in the mid to high 20s. And honestly, at 2xU, when we tested, whenever a new brand came out, we'll grab it and we'll test it on our Salzman device. And I would say 85% of compression wasn't graduated, even though they said they were. Probably 70% of it didn't have high enough ratings to actually offer decent enough support. When it came to support of the muscle group. So it really wasn't compression. And so many brands just put the compression name on a product and charged $10, $15 more for it than it should have been priced, and sold it. So I think, to answer your question, is it around as much? You know what? I still see a lot. I mean, I live in Auckland, and I'm lucky enough to live on the waterfront here. And I would say every second or third runner is still wearing compression socks. I think here in New Zealand, compression, there's still a lot of compression wearers down here because they have been lucky enough where 2xU here in New Zealand is by far the dominant brand in endurance sports. I think Skin's definitely got a foothold in the football sports, but definitely here in New Zealand, it's still a very heavily compressioned market because most people are wearing 2xU. And again, I'm no longer part of 2xU, but we did build a really good compression product. But unfortunately in America and other parts of the world, other brands that are coming out don't really have the benefits of a product as good as 2xU. So that's probably why it's fallen away.
You've talked about a number of brands there. I remember Laura and I, living in Victoria, Canada back in 2001, had heard about this compression thing. And we had to go to a place where an old person's kind of shop where you buy your walking frames and everything else. And we had to get measured for compression socks and stockings. Yeah. And we just wanted them for travel. We'd heard about this, deep vein thrombosis, and we wanted to make sure we had, some kind of, and so we had to have them actually custom made for us. And this is in 2001, not that long ago. Yeah. And then we found a brand called, tell me if this brand's any good, because we do kind of use them sometimes, Sigvaris.
Yeah,
and they were like a medical brand. Are they any good? I mean, or did they not have graduated compression specific training?
No. They're very good. I think when it comes to compression socks, Sigvaris obviously is actually a medical hosiery company, and I'm actually familiar with where they're made in a lot of their factories. They actually are a really, really good company. So they do make a really good compression sock. As does there's a few more out there. Obviously, CEP is the sports one. But there's definitely a few medical hosiery-based companies that do actually make really good compression socks. And I think out there actually is a lot more decent compression socks than what there is compression tights, for example. And I think the socks market does have some strong brands, but in the tights market, if you most of the good compression hosiery companies that have access to there's 2 or 3 brands of knitting, compression hosiery machines out that you can buy. If you've got a good technician and you know the yarns really well and how you draft the yarns, it's not nearly as difficult to create a great pair of graduated compression socks. But when it comes to making the fabrics and cutting and sewing them like in the tights, like what we did in and what Skins did, for example, that's a lot harder. I mean, your multiple body shapes. Getting the right kind of power in a fabric light enough that you can still wear for sport. And I think that's where 2xU
and not too hot, right? I mean,
exactly, not too hot,
right?
Exactly. Yeah, and there's so many brands out there. I mean, there's a few brands out there, a few other Australian brands out there, which actually made quite good tights with good power, but they were so hot and so heavy when they got wet, they wouldn't whip moisture very well. So what we did at 2xU is that we managed to make extremely powerful fabric, but still super lightweight and super flexible. And that's almost a quandary. When you get more power, normally it weighs a lot more. So we managed to get this really fine tune on our knitting machines, fine tune. And I know, for example, Under Armour spent years trying to copy our fabric, and they couldn't copy it. And because we just tinkered with the knitting machines for years, just to get exactly, we developed heads for the machines, which were unique, and we just really, had a real art in how to make compression fabric. And that's how we really stayed ahead of the pack. And still today until next year, 2 times I believe is still the best compression brand out there.
Right. Well. Okay. Let's talk about that.
We'll get to that soon if you want to. But I mean,
Well, I'm curious as to this next sort of phase. I mean, the exit strategy from 2 times your baby, you're emotional, you're passionate about it. I mean, how was that deciding? Okay, we're going to take this. Was it an offer that came to you guys, and you guys, it was an offer too good to refuse? You just had to, kind of thing.
Well, it was actually 3 phases. I mean, we actually sold, first of all, 20% of the business. I mean, even though we're profitable, we didn't really need the money to build the business. Clyde said to us, "Let's take some money off the table now. If something happened and the world fell apart, at least take some money off the table." So basically, we sold 20%, which is great because we actually were able to go and buy a nice house and kind of take back some of the stuff which we'd gone without for so many years, and then so we did that probably in year 8 or 9, and then right when we were very profitable, and our track at this place, we were tracking from start to where we were like in about year 8 or 9, we were tracking faster than what Under Armour and Lululemon was. I mean, like, we were just on this massive curve, and doing it from Australia made it even more impressive. I mean, like, we didn't have the scale. I always say it's very easy to own your backyard, but to go and take another backyard of someone else is so much harder, because in your own backyard, people, you can just the filtration of the brand so much easier in your home market. And so, we spoke about a lot to go and live in the US if we didn't want to do, but around this time, basically had 4 or 5 equity companies, one of which just missed out on buying Lululemon. So they were one of them. So we had 4, I think it was 4 or 5. We'll say 4 for now. Come to us, and basically we said, "Look, we're in Melbourne. Here's 2 days. Each of you get 2 or 3 hours each. Come and pitch to us why we should sell you part of our business." So we were selling a 40% share. Sorry, with a 40% share. I can't remember what it was at this stage. It was a 40% share at this stage. Come and tell us why. So basically, they all came. A few Boston-based ones, and Al Catterton, which is part of the LVMH group, who incidentally today own Pinarello, and obviously they own a ton of other. They just sold Aaron Williams and a few, and Sue Foley and some other brands, but also own Sweetie Betty and I think Roan as well, and so quite active in that space. They came and they were the one that basically pitched us, we'll help you grow outside. We'll help you grow outside Australia into more to Asia, because we already were quite strong in Europe and the States. And they actually offered us probably a large amount more than the other company offered us. So we sold 40% of the business. But at this stage, we said, "Look, you can be quite a lot more involved in running the company," and so they said, "Look, to us 3 founders, you guys have done a great job up until now, fantastic job. We're going to bring a guy down from Adidas in Germany to run the business." And so basically, we're going to appoint the first CEO of 2 times. At this stage, me and Aidan basically ran the company. I basically ran the product and the production and the supply chain, and Aidan ran the sales and marketing. And as I said, so he flew down and, very, won't say who he is, but very corporate. And basically this company went from being this entrepreneurial run, make decisions off your cuff, because by that stage, we knew what worked and didn't work, and we made decisions off the cuff, just do it, kind of mentality. And, we work out in our heads, it'll cost us this, and let's do it, and we knew our distributors really well too, and we knew it would work. So basically from that to being this market, that a brand would even stopped. I lost control of the product team, and basically just stopped. We stopped innovating as much. We really, the handbrake got put on. Everything had to go via committee. And that really started to make me start to really lose my passion in what we were doing.
It's like, did you feel like it was I hear this conversation of where we're at now. And if you go back to 2000 and the New Zealand Federation comes in and tells you you're not going to be, you got to answer to this federation. They're going to choose the Olympics. It's taken out of your hands. And then it's a little bit, hang on, fast forward 15 years. And here am I loving what I'm doing, incredibly passionate, but we're going to put a CEO in place and you're going to have to answer to him. And it's almost like, here we go again. Did it feel like that a bit?
I probably didn't draw the two parallels, but you're completely right. But I think it was a bit more of a kick in the guts a little bit. And all it did, like I spoke to you earlier about, you want to empower your people. And I felt like I was majorly disempowered, even though I was still an owner and the new CEO wasn't. We the three of us still had, they had, along with the first equity partner, which was really on our side somewhat. We still really ran the company, and yet I was being told I couldn't do things. And that made it hard, made me want to go on less trips. And around this time too, my wife and my wife, love Australians to bits, but my wife said, I don't want our kids to grow up as Australians. And by this stage, they knew the Australian national anthem, didn't know the New Zealand national anthem, and they were starting to say dance rather than dance, and that killed me. So we decided my wife decided, to move back home with the kids, and basically I would come home for the weekends. And so with this happening, my family at home, it kind of started to be the start of the end for me. And not to say that it was the start of the end pretty much. And so basically fast forward, production started to slow down, got people on board, even in the product team, I probably didn't see eye to eye with. It was becoming less and less product focused and more marketing focused, because the innovation just wasn't happening like it used to happen. But compression was always there, but I guess it was more the other segments. And so I guess over the next so many years, it started to unwind my passion. And then probably 4 years later, probably 4 years later, so probably about year 13, 14 of the brand, I'd been commuting now for 5 years. Flew up Monday morning, flew home Thursday night. Absolutely, and then probably third or fourth week I was in Asia or in Europe or in the States, at trade shows and everything else too. I was exhausted, and at this stage, my other business partner, Aiden, had got him started another brand, was not really in the business anymore. And then I just really starting to lose my drive and passion, and around the same time, we're starting to do some collabs with Yeezy up in the States. And then during that time, I'd got to do some work one-on-one with Kanye West, we really got on pretty well, and there'd be a whole lot of judges out there, but very, very sweet guy. Got to know him really well, and he offered me the role to basically head up the brand Yeezy. So at this stage, I was basically 3 or 4 days a week. I was in LA at Yeezy, or 2 or 3 days a week I was in 2 times a year, and then another day a week I was back home. It was just a massive amount of time, and finally through multiple events, I decided I didn't probably want to go and live in LA and probably and work with Kanye, because it wasn't a structure. It was all over the place. Yeezy was, a great brand, but difficult guy to work for at many levels. But so then I came home and said, look, Suzanne, to my wife, look, I'm just over it. And this is exactly the time the brand was starting to really not perform that well. And so basically along came LVMH or Al Qaeda and said, look, why don't we buy you guys out? And I was like, yeah, bring it on. So that happened in 2 weeks' time. It was 2 years ago, and I had a 2-year restricted trade placed upon me.
Oh, I was wondering when that.
Yeah, so great. In fairness to Al Qaeda, it wasn't a real tenuous restricted trade, and I'm really grateful to them for not making it 5 years and everything else. It was 2 years. And so basically it expires on December the 19th. It expires. So I basically turned down the opportunity at Yeezy, sold 2 and then December 2018, basically was unemployed. And so I said to my wife, hey, I've never done New Zealand Ironman. I've been really keen to do New Zealand Ironman. So basically spent the next 5 months training like a professional athlete, and but basically trained every day with Cameron Brown. I've been close to Cameron. He was actually one of the groomsmen at my wedding 27 years ago, and spent every day training with Cameron, and basically spent six months like a pro athlete, and did New Zealand Ironman. March last year, did super well. Got second over age group and won my age group by half an hour. 13th overall, went 9:02, and it was great. But then I almost did so well. I was like, okay, kind of tick that off now. Like what's next? So really from then just started to plan my next brands, and I really wanted to start off with doing a triathlon brand because I love triathlon, but it's actually already a really competitive field. Not a lot of guys are actually making any money in the field. There's probably too many ex-athletes coming and doing it, or it's not really a profitable business. And so I decided, look, I kind of need to go back into the compression field, but I know the compression customer really well, and I feel like they, with the way 2U had headed, Skins had basically gone to liquidation. I went about developing a whole new kind of compression, and I feel like I'm onto a real winner. So I started that started a long time ago, and basically lucky that I did, because come March this year we went into lockdown, and so basically I couldn't go to the factories anymore, and so it put a big strain. But in the meantime, keep building this brand from lockdown, which has been really hard. And as of start of next year, I'm going to launch this brand, and luckily enough for me, many of the 2U distributors over the last 2 years had disengaged selling 2U in their market. So I've picked up a whole chunk of them. And so basically launching already with a really strong European distribution, strong distribution in Asia, and brought on one of my best mates in the US to help me do the US market. So really excited about
that's
that.
Awesome.
So,
can you tell me the name of the brand yet, or you got to wait for launch? Yeah.
No, it's fine. No, the brand's called Prezio, Pressio. So Prezio.com.
Okay.
If you click on there, there's a countdown sequence, but really targeting compression, but also really targeting the run market. Like deep down, as you know, Greg, running was my passion. I started off being a runner. Even to this day, I wish I could run a lot more than what I do. But I can't because I get injured really easily. But I love the running market, and I feel like in the cycling market, there's been so many great hip brands come through. Obviously, Rafa came with a starting element, and obviously there's brands like MAP and Black Sheep and Attacker. A lot of really great brands came through, but there's not been that many great, innovative, cool run brands come through.
I agree.
mean, there's a brand in the US that that has great marketing. A brand called Tracksmith that I really like their marketing perspective. Obviously, brands like Rowan, which are more like a Lululemon kind of brand, but not really being innovative. So I'm making this real amazing run brand with amazing fabrics, which wick moisture as good as anything out there, but is completely sustainable. So, and so my brand is based on sustainability as well. So, all my ratings, MMHG ratings, performance, wicking of moisture, everything is world leading. But I made it much harder by making it the fabrics recyclable, eco dye yarns. And so I really want to be the world's first real high achieving, great looking brand, be run and compression. It also has a real sustainability platform to it as well. And I think a lot of guys can go and start brands with not much experience, but probably nobody could do what I'm doing. It didn't have the experience that I have. I mean, I've fabricated all new fabrics extruded new types of recycled yarns that I can actually do this. So I'm really excited about our marketing angle. Our website's going to be kick-ass.
Right.
So I'm really excited about it. So look, so March, April next year, hopefully March, not April. This brand's going to go live, and in the US, for example, it's going to be purely online for the first year. Europe will be probably more of a we might be in a few stores, but I really want people to experience the brand through the website rather than going into big box retailers and not really experience. When you read about the fabrications, the yarns, I love telling stories about fabrics and how we got to make these fabrics. One fabric, for example, that I created, I sourced the fabric out of Europe. I loved the fabric, but then I found out later that the recycled yarns were actually made in China, shipped to Italy, this really famous Italian mill, and then the fabric was shipped back to Asia again. So I thought, no, that's nonsense. That's not great on the environment. So I managed to source the yarn, knitted it in China, cost me 30% less, but it even got the moisture management better than what the Italians had it. So so the price points will be great value price points. So many recycled brands that are out there have massively inflated price points because they don't know how to source the yarns properly. And I really feel like this brand, it's open to the masses. It's recycled. Real low footprint on the planet. Everything that I do, I say to my team, can we do it better sustainably as well? So so that's really cool. Yeah,
mate, your passion is just contagious. I can imagine working on your team and you coming into the office each day and just everybody. It's just I guess that moves me on to this next part of the podcast, because this passion, this energy that you have, it's just the ability to sustain it is really quite something. And I think it was on your LinkedIn page, actually. I read this quote: entrepreneurs are the only people that are willing to work 90 hours a week to avoid working 40 hours a week for someone else. I mean, that is almost the way you've operated for so long.
Yeah.
But how, you've talked about your family a little bit, your relationships and your team, you can't do all of this on your own. You've got 3 beautiful girls. How have you managed to make that work?
I think multiple levels. I have a very strong Christian faith as well. And I think that has been great because we've got such an amazing community here in New Zealand. So one of the biggest things about leaving is that we've got, people, in our friendship group that are like their kids are like my daughters and sons. And so I think, first of all, my wife, supporter, she's, even at times when we started the brand, she had to go back to nursing, work nights, just to put food on the table, and then to go home, and we had young kids at the time as well, and she's always worked whenever she needed to. So, and she's just a great mother, great, even one of my daughters has gone through, struggled a lot with mental illness too, and just being there for her 24/7, so I think our support network through our community, both Christian and non-Christian, and we've got great friends, great support network. I mean, my wife is just such a, all the young people around us all call her Mama Sue. She's there for looking after their babies. And so I think this really a really great community, and great kids. I mean, my kids are so resilient and have to put up with me for all these years. And, I go out of my way to always embarrass them whenever I can. But I mean, the fact of the matter is that this is one thing that's quite funny. My second daughter, she's actually getting married in 2 weeks' time, and she's marrying actually my 2IC at the business. She's marrying him, and he is exactly like me. And I always say, "See, you're marrying your dad." I mean, there you go. They always say you're marrying your dad. So she's marrying him, and he's actually he's smarter than me. So but anyway, he's fantastic, and so look, I think support networks, great family. Obviously, my belief structure is really important to me, as well, and that's been, believe it or not, one thing I always treasure is, every single Sunday I go to church, and we just don't hear about, about about being good. We hear about life lessons, about, how to be someone who is forgiving and kind and patient and thankful for what you have, and all these elements in life. I mean, I truly believe that if you want to live a healthy, sustained life, it's up to you if you want to take your mindset there. If you want to be someone who is thankful for what they have, and someone who serves. I mean, I think that's one thing that I look at my wife's life, and I'm trying to be more this way now too, is just to serve other people, and invest in their lives, and that those things are really, really important. I think if you live a life, I think the problem we have as athletes, and we're often really selfish, and I think, so many guys substitute doing Ironmans and that too, to try and mask things in their lives that maybe are missing, and actually they do become more and more selfish. And I think they're trying to find that real balance about being a good father, a good husband, a good employee, a good employer, but also serving others, reaching out to others, helping them, supporting them is a really important way to truly find a really good balance in your life, is really important.
That's all really beautifully said. I think, the church, is not only is, I think, the Bible one of the greatest self-help books ever written. And I say it in that way.
Yeah,
my brother's
absolutely.
a chaplain, actually. My brother's a chaplain in St. Peter's in New Zealand, a private school down in
wow.
just down from you. But we often chat about that. And I always feel like, we're all out there writing self-help books and everything else. And I'm kind of like, the scriptures have some amazing, amazing stories. Even if you're a non-believer, the Bible is still one of the greatest self-help books ever written. And if you can turn to it. But on top of that, the church, and you touched on it, and the community that it creates. The community of the church is something that I think we've lost sight of a lot in society in this last sort of 20, 30 years. And I think that's why we tend to have more issues with kids and finding their way. And I think that community is everything. And then, like you said, the gratefulness and the being thankful for what you have, and then serving others. They all come out of the Gospels, but it's really, now we all talk about them like, who's the latest self-help person telling us to be grateful and thankful, right? It's like, hang on, it's been there for thousands of years.
and you know what? It's so true. I mean, it was quite interesting. I did I did quite a bit of speaking at various churches, especially to the youth, which I have a real heart for. And there's a Harvard professor who discovered through years and years of research about how to be truly happy. And it's basically, I mean, he's an atheist, and it's taken I actually did a sermon on how it completely aligns with the Bible. The things that he said, it's like, well, here's a scripture that supports that. I mean, and a lot of it was about being a servant to others, about investing in others' lives, and and being thankful for what you have, even in times of distress, and so honestly, you're right. It's a really good self-help book, and that's fantastic.
And look, touching on that, and you mentioned earlier in the episode, you've struggled with some depression, and I think a lot of us, whether we call it depression, we go through tougher times where it feels like you can never get out, or whatever it is. And how were you able to now and then manage it? I mean, are you using sort of any kind of specific mental strategies to manage that anxiety, or what kind of morning routine would you do to sort of help yourself with that?
Yeah, I mean, like it's I think once you've had depression, it's I wouldn't say it's a daily struggle for me now, but it's always lingering, and a lot of it's based on anxiety. I mean, I think, most depressions are brought on by anxiety. And for me, it's about just trying to balance my days. I say to my staff every day, look, guys, not every day, most days, I say, look, guys, I'm going to be here for 3 or 4 hours today. I only have the capacity for 3 or 4 hours. I also want to go for a bike ride too. I'll go for a run, but I go in saying, look, guys, this is all I have is this much today. And in that, I mean, I started a routine probably about a year ago now, where in the old days I would get up and go swim training. Even the last few years, I'd get up and go, swim squad, 6 o'clock start. But now, the last year, I've decided that I'm going to start the day every day. I'm going to get the first fruits of my day, to guide into myself. And so basically I get up at 6 o'clock every morning. I have an hour and a half where I even just sit I've got a great view over the ocean here in Auckland, over the harbour. And I sit on my balcony, I'll read the Bible, I'll pray, but often I'll just sit there and just think, and just, think about what's going on in my life. And and it actually just, obviously it lowers my cortisol levels. It just brings me into the day in this really slow way, rather than going swim training and, doing 25 100s on 130 coming in, or 120 and coming in on 115, and trying to hang on the Cameron's feet, and it just starts my day slower. So I've now learned, and if I am tired, I can't go out on a Saturday morning and do a 5-hour bike ride. I've got to just really manage. I've got to manage my days, and so really now it's a lot of conscious decisions that I have to make, that I cannot burn candles at both ends anymore, and so that's really helped me, and a lot. So just having that really early ritual to each day, just to get up. And I'm fortunate enough that I can do my own hours at work, and and I can escape in the day and do training. But that first part of the day for me is really, really important, just to get the day started right.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And I think maybe it's our age, because we are the same age. We were discussing that before the show. But it is that, for me, Laura still gets up in the morning at 6 a.m. and runs off to the gym each morning and does something. And I'm like, no, I need to have my time in the morning. Yeah. And then I like to have breakfast with both of the kids, they're 2 and they're 10 months old. I'm like, and I'm fully embracing that that's my focus. And then I'll go to the gym a bit later in the morning for a little bit of a workout. But basically it's taking full control of your life and full responsibility. And I think I think sometimes we're always controlled by either work. Even if you're an entrepreneur owning your own business, you still let work control you to some degree. Yeah. And I think now with age and wisdom, you've coming around and going, okay, no, these are what's really important to me. What is really truly important to me, and that leads me into this next part, your general health. And I guess the mental strategies and mindset really work in with general health and metabolic health overall. But are you these days more conscious of nutrition and diet and that kind of thing? What are you doing for that part of your life?
I think it's a shocker. I'm a shocker. It's the one area of my life. It's my weakness.
And you're not very good at fibbing either. You're not very good at telling a lie.
About it. You know what? I'm definitely better than I was a year ago. I mean, I give it more now, and I have this called Good Green Stuff smoothie, and I add some vitamin C to it. That's probably the best thing I do all day. But I am trying to be better. But I do have a sweet tooth, and I do like alcohol. It's funny, when I was an athlete, I did not drink at all. I remember I went out one day and I had one sip of light beer and I was almost drunk off it. Now I could have probably 4 or 5 beers and I can't even feel it, But I mean, alcohol is my thing. But look, I mean, I'm conscious enough but I can definitely be a lot better than what I am. And I actually do know that it would even be better for mental health if I was better in this area, because there's enough studies out there to talk about it. 100%. So, but I mean, it's not great. It could be much, much better. And I always justify the fact that I work out every day that I can afford to have an extra, beer or glass of wine or something at night.
You're right on that. But you're right on what you're saying. I mean, every time you hear something and you listen to a podcast or whatever, and they're talking about a certain gut biome, or they're talking about a certain diet or nutrition, and they all end with, but if you work out enough, you should be fine. Like, it's always like that idea of keeping the engine moving is critical. My life has become a little bit more with Laura, with the 2 kids. She was always pretty full on into nutrition and understanding supplements and everything and all that world. And I always just did what I was told. But then she got pregnant and started breastfeeding and having these kids. And so our life now is about as all organic and everything as you can imagine. I do start the day with a little pump for one of the sponsors here with Athletic Greens. So if you are looking, I can send you some of that. They're actually a New Zealand company originally, Athletic Greens. Fantastic product. Just an all-in-one, whole foods green drink that's just very easy to start your day, is my point. So for somebody like yourself that doesn't want to get too far into it, that you made me laugh though, buddy. I love that. You can't lie, so you just, and it's all right. I'm not going to tell anybody about your diet. Don't worry about it.
No, I know that if my wife listened to the podcast and heard me say that I was good, she would rib me too much. So I had to be honest.
And it's funny, Laura and I, we retired in 2016 from racing, and we did, towards the end of our career, we started to enjoy a couple of beers together. And then, when she got pregnant, she stopped drinking. And so my partner in crime, so I haven't drunk now for probably 3 or 4 years. But I did say to her the other day, when are you stopping breastfeeding? Because, I want my buddy back. I want my beer drinking buddy back.
Perfect.
How many hours, you mentioned when you were traveling and things, 200 days a year on the road. And I mean, hours of sleep, how are you getting enough hours? What kind of hours of sleep do you need? And what kind of recovery work are you doing?
I need at least 8 hours a night. Otherwise, I'm a complete mess. So that's definitely a big issue for me is how many hours sleep I get. If I get 7, I'll probably need to have an afternoon nap in the afternoon. So that's definitely a major issue with me. And I would love to have less sleep, but I just can't. I need at least 8 hours.
No, I think that's more than fair, mate. I don't think. Are you doing anything, beyond your morning routine that you talked about? When you come home from these trips and extended travel, in terms of grounding techniques, are you doing anything to sort of ground yourself to get back into normality quicker?
Well, I always try and come home and just do a little light workout. But I always say to my wife, look, I'm going to have an afternoon sleep for like the first 3 or 4 days when I get home. And I do actually love going to the US, coming home, and I'm awake at like 3 or 4 in the morning. I love between 4 and 6 in the morning. I sit on my deck, I watch the ships come in. I love that so much. But then obviously at the end of the day, you're absolutely exhausted. So I'll try. And I think working out for me has been great. I mean, I work out every day. I might have one day off a fortnight. But that definitely helps me get into the routine, I think, a lot faster than if I didn't work out.
Mate, this has been so amazing. Finally, some advice for listeners who are maybe thinking of, starting their own company or considering going out on their own. What do you think? Do it?
Yeah, I mean, if it's hard to say because, I mean, if your idea is truly unique, I mean, I always say, when it comes to business, try and own a niche. I mean, I think, so many guys, for example, I'll give you an example. I mean, someone came to me a few weeks ago and said, hey, look, I want to start up a golf wear company. I said, look, that's a really crowded market. Why don't you just go out and try and make the world's best golf belt or an element of it? Just try and own a piece of the market. Don't try and be all things to all people. I think and try and go into a space where you truly have your own playing field. I mean, like so many guys I see get in and do cycle brands. And I'm like, oh man, because so many factories now are so set up to help these little guys start brands, but there's this massive amount of brands out there now that it must be hard for them. I mean, I see just the amazing amount of cycle brands that are out there because everyone dreams of having their own cycle brand, it seems to be, and I mean, I would say to that, try and do something a bit different. Try and own another space within the cycle clothing. Be an awesome bike sock maker, or just try something that's a bit different. So try and find a niche, try and own it, and then try and learn as much as you can about that niche. I mean, it's so much easier. Say you were doing bike socks. Learn about the fibers, the filaments, the applications that you can apply to it. What should a cycling sock actually have? A, B, C, D. Where should it be supportive and how long should it be? And what kind of applications for cooling or heating so you don't get hot feet when you cycle, or just try and learn as much as you can about a real niche. But I feel like if you go in with aspirations that are too big sometimes, all you're going to probably do is fail, So just really try and own your niche. Try and find something which is attainable, bite-sized, and then grow from there. Learn how to own your backyard before you try and go global, so.
Wow. That was fantastic, mate. That was absolutely brilliant. Now, finally, just before you go, you said are you moving to the UK as a permanent move or just to try and start this brand? What's happening there next year?
Right? Yeah, so we're actually moving there. I'm actually going the next month for a month first. But basically, my second daughter has had a lifetime dream to be a doctor. She missed out on getting into med school 4 years ago, so she went off and did a nursing degree. But in the meantime, she's been sitting exams, and so she's actually managed to get into a UK med school. She starts in January. And she's the one who's getting married to the guy who works for me. So he said to me, Jamie, I want to keep working for you. Why don't we go to the UK and launch the brand there? Way bigger market. We're close to Europe. And my wife and I were like, why not? We can. And our youngest daughter also wanted to go to college in the UK and do fashion psychology. And the only degree in the world of that's in London. So we're all heading up to the UK, I'd say 3 or 4 years, and then we'll take it from there. So exciting.
Oh, good on you. Good on you. I love that. And your family, you just seem so close. You know, you really are great role models to just hear the love of family. So I just think that's absolutely fantastic. And I'm really excited for this, Pressio. Is that how I say it? Pressio gear?
Pressio.
Yeah, Pressio.com. I went and checked it out. I've got, it's the countdown clock is there, so the pressure's on.
Yeah.
but mate, this has been a real thrill. Your journey and all your lessons that you've learned in your process. It's just so many great takeaways on this one. So I really, really appreciate you coming on and having a chat with me, mate.
Oh, pleasure.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for listening. You can go to bennettendurance.com/media for show notes, timestamps, coupon codes, and all the links. I'll put pressio.com in there. Can't wait to try the gear, mate. Stay on the line, and I really appreciate it, buddy.
Cheers.
Thanks a lot for listening to Be With Champions. If you've enjoyed the show, your support would truly be appreciated. You can visit the Be With Champions Patreon page, or you can subscribe with your podcast app of choice. Don't miss the next episode, so subscribe and be notified. For show notes, if you want to know more, please visit bennettendurance.com. I'm Phil Liggett, and on behalf of Greg Bennett, here's to the next time, and I hope you will join Greg again very soon.